Hey, I think we're live on Facebook right now, Adam.
Oh my gosh. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the Gun Collective podcast. My name is Adam Kraut, and with me...
my name is John Patton.
And today we are honored to be joined by Brandon Combs, the founder and president of the Firearms Policy Coalition. He's a man who's heavily entrenched in fighting the California gun-grabbing agenda. He's also currently a plaintiff in a federal Second Amendment challenge that's currently awaiting a grant of... or a denial of certiorari at the U.S. Supreme Court, which we'll probably get to in a little bit here. He's also the kind of guy who enjoys long walks on the beach while reading hate mail, which I'm sure there's no shortage of because Brandon tells us virtually everybody hates him. So when he's not up in arms against the government, he can be found enjoying his culinary passions, which include smoking beef ribs and baking sourdough bread. Brandon, thanks for being with us. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to join us here.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. So I guess we might as well just jump right into it. Given that it seems you're heavily involved in California-related politics, I'm guessing it's a safe guess that you are probably from California.
Oh, wait.
That's right. We got. We're based in Sacramento, and I was born and raised in California's beautiful Central Valley. Came from a little farm town, and really enjoy the area. Miss it, and there's a lot of great things about California. Unfortunately, the politics suck.
Yeah, they really do. They really, really do. I saw something earlier today that I thought was really interesting. It was, of course, on social media, and it was a post that said the California politicians are the highest paid in the nation, which blows my mind. These people are so far from doing their actual jobs, yet they're the highest paid. That's shocking.
Aren't they supposed to be public servants? I didn't know public servants were supposed to be compensated extremely well.
Sure.
Okay. Well, can you just, give us a little bit of a background about yourself and how you ended up being the head of what you are? I mean, it sounds like from our discussions earlier and what I know about you, you're really involved in firearms rights in California in a number of different organizations. So it sounds like you've come a long way. How did you actually get to where you are?
Well, the Reader's Digest version is that I started going and sort of hanging out in courtrooms at Ninth Circuit courts. There was a ponytailed lawyer by the name of Don Kilmer arguing a case. It was making some really poignant arguments, and it really struck me, and I wanted to get more involved.
I'm sorry. Did you say the lawyer had a ponytail?
That's right.
See, my long hair wasn't totally crazy.
It was. Your hair was awful. Your hair was awful.
Well, it wasn't that. It wasn't that good.
What was the argument he was making that really struck you? What really brought you in?
Well, in that particular case, he was arguing for gun shows. Actually, it was you might know this, the first case to incorporate the Second Amendment through the 14th Amendment, and California has no right to keep and bear arms in its state constitution. And so this was a case about gun shows at the Alameda County Fairgrounds. And one of the arguments that he raised was obviously the Second Amendment component, but also the First Amendment component, an element of this, which is, do people have a right to associate and gather, as they historically have, to talk about guns, to buy and sell guns, ammunition, trinkets, stun guns, whatever you hear at gun shows, beef jerky.
It's all about the trinket sales.
I thought it was about
it's
the
all about
guns.
beef jerky.
Oh, no. It's the duck call.
Oh, the duck call guy that does it all day. When you're least expecting it, you go like, ugh!
So John and I both used to work at a gun shop together. And we've known each other for years, but we ended up working together for a while. And one of the things we had to do was go to gun shows. And there were plenty of times where we found ourselves right near the guy with the duck calls and the goose calls and just all
and the
day.
Stun gun that just
never ceases to stop.
Awful. If you're that guy, please
Stop
unsubscribe.
It. Yeah, stop it.
So this guy was arguing in favor of gun shows and kind of. Do you want to kind of explain what the issue was and what he was up against?
Ban on gun shows at the Alameda County Fairgrounds, and the legislative record of this ordinance showed that it was pure animus. The county board of supervisors hated guns. They hated gun rights. They wanted nothing to do with it. And so they wanted to ban guns at the fairgrounds. And one of the problems that they had that Don pointed out was, well, the Scottish Games that, by the way, the sheriff participates in every year. The Scottish Games had guns; so they could do it, but gun shows were banned. So, one of the arguments that he was raising was an equal protections claim there. But anyway, and so that was kind of how I got invested into this really heavily. Was deciding that I too wanted to help bring those kinds of arguments to the people through our through policy work and also the law, and so here we are.
Wow. I think that's pretty cool, man. I think, seeing people actually be affected by this kind of stuff isn't something that you get talked about a lot, right?
No, I mean, so one of the questions we get a lot is how do I get involved? How do I actually be the person that does stuff? One of the great things about our channel, at least, is that it seems like a lot of our viewers and listeners want to be actively engaged in doing exactly what you just said, helping form policy and going out and changing things versus just sitting on Facebook and adding comments in the window.
Yeah, the slacktivism is really, really strong right now, and I'm sure you're fighting that all the time. Pushing your message. I mean, is slacktivism and this hashtag activism something that you guys try and utilize, or is it something you kind of stray away from? Because I know it's very difficult. We fight the same battles in certain ways. We try to get people to share our message and our content out. I mean, I can only imagine that for a political organization such as FPC, you guys are up against that and then some. What's your tactic on that?
Well, fundamentally, I mean, people are tired. They have day jobs, they have lives, and there's so much going on in life. And frankly, the exhaustion of the political climate is real. And so you kind of have to do two things at the same time. One is you have to produce content or material messaging, whatever, that people care about. And then you've got to convince them that there's an action to be taken there, that's something that's accessible to them, and that it'll have an effect, right? I mean, so if you just tell people to do stuff all day long, that's great. But, if it doesn't actually result in any kind of an outcome, then you just kind of train your people that it doesn't matter. And so one of the balancing acts that we have to do from a grassroots perspective is keeping people engaged on issues where they can get wins, because grassroots activism is real. It has a real effect. You can win if you show up. And I think, the question that you asked, how do people get involved and how do you get to be the guy or a woman that does something? Well, the answer is do something. Show up. If you don't show up, you can't win at all. So I think that would be my first answer.
Yeah, we definitely see that quite a bit when, especially with the legal brief. We're constantly trying to tell people go get involved, and the response quite often is it doesn't matter. And the same thing goes with national elections. I'm not voting because my vote doesn't count, things of that nature. And the reality is that it does matter and it does count. It matters different amounts, I guess.
Sure. It seems to be just politics generally are the area of life that people are either 100% full bore into or just want nothing to do with it, and they think that their involvement is totally of no consequence whatsoever. And I disagree. I'm the kind of guy. I posted a video to my Facebook page not too long ago where I went into Ryan Costello's office out here in Westchester where I live, because he happens to have an office there, and I went in and talked about national reciprocity and the SHARE Act when that still was a feasible thing, and made my views known to his staff. And I took the time out of my day to stop into his office. I've also posted call logs of calls to local and national representatives, and I can call all of them in under 5 minutes. There's really no excuse, especially when most of us commute to and from work, that you can't be involved in some level.
So speaking of being involved, Brandon, can you tell us kind of what you're up against right now, at least on a local level? I think everybody's kind of aware of fixed NICS and national reciprocity, and
we'll get to those shortly.
Assault weapons ban. But what are you guys facing? You do a lot with California. What are you facing out there right now? I think we've got a huge audience in California. We always try to kind of stick with our brethren out there. What are you up against?
Well, it's scary, frankly. I mean, the state of California has, for some time now, but definitely more recently, they're going to do everything they can to take away Second Amendment rights and criminalize people. And then because people are what would be otherwise law-abiding conduct, or having possession of, regular guns that anybody else in the United States can have, when it's all illegal, then everybody's going to be a criminal, and then they're going to take away your rights through these other weird little nuanced laws that say, well, if you commit this crime, then you lose your gun rights for 5 years, for 10 years, or maybe for a lifetime. And so it's not just, everybody hears about things like the assault weapons ban, large capacity magazines, and ammunition, but it's bigger than that. It's really about forcing everybody into a cone of getting on the lists and then treating everybody like criminals. Eventually, I think we all know where that's going to go. They've already done it once; they're going to do it again, and so it's a pretty scary time. But we're fighting in the courts, we're fighting in the legislature, and I think that there's an awful lot of gun owners in California, and if they would show up again, if people do show up, you can win. If gun owners don't show up and vote, then you're not going to win. Some friends of ours down in San Diego, the San Diego County Gun Owners Association, Mike Schwartz has done an amazing job of building a local grassroots activism political group that's having some really awesome effects. And I mean, we're talking about CCW stuff, local policies, keeping the gun shop doors open so people can exercise their rights lawfully. And I think that if people in California, New York, wherever, if you're behind enemy lines, you need to be working. If you're not working, the other side is, and they hate you. They want you to be in jail. They want your property taken away. I would look to San Diego County gun owners as a model for if you're asking me like what we're up against a lot. And I think that by going local, I think you can get a lot of work done.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, one of the things that we had talked about previously was California's Gunmageddon, and how there's millions of gun owners in California, and the amount of signatures that they got was just abysmal. And really, it was interesting because there were people that were sending emails to me saying, "Oh, I volunteered to drive people to the shops to sign petitions," and that's how bad it is. And you would think that if you're a gun owner and you have some inclination to actually care about your rights, you would go stop and sign the petition, especially when it would have had the effect it would have. And again, it goes back to, I guess, the political quandary that always exists is the juice worth the squeeze for the individual being a part of it? And I would think in that case, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think a lot of people fall into, somebody else will do that for me. Like they expect Brandon to be the guy who fixes it for them. That's that kind of slacktivism that I'm talking about earlier. And we see this with the Gun Owners of America, the NRA, the NAGR,
right.
We see it across the board where it's very difficult. And you made a great point, Brandon, about making people aware that they're getting a win or can get a win with what you're trying to get to them. Hey, this isn't just a losing battle from day one. You do have a chance. We have a chance collectively. And that kind of brings me to another question that I think you can kind of touch on. So we often talk about, the various state law issues that come up, and we get a ton of questions that are very specific about state laws. Adam will tell you.
My inbox is flooded.
Yeah.
I see your requests.
And I think you've got this kind of, you're doing a national level, you're also doing a local level. So what would you recommend for people out there that are trying to help our kind of Second Amendment brethren across the nation? What would you recommend they do to get out there and help from across the country?
I think the easiest thing that people can do is maybe something it's a little scary, right? Contacting your legislators is a pretty simple step to take, but there's a barrier there. There's an emotional barrier there, and I think a lot of people believe that, especially if you're in a place like California or New York, New Jersey, or Hawaii, even, maybe the members don't care about your opinion. Maybe they're mean, right? But the staff that you're going to talk with are actually really friendly, and for the most part, they may completely disagree with you, but they're not going to eat you, right? I mean, they're people like us, and they go home too. And I think that the number one thing that you can do is take that first step. Call your legislator. Who cares about what? Doesn't have to be about guns. Call them about some other bill or some other issue that you care about. Maybe one you're more comfortable with or you're more familiar with, even, and just say, "Hey, here's what I think." Do that, and then have somebody sit with somebody else and go, today I'm going to put your member on speakerphone, and we're going to talk to them, right? 2 minutes, you can engage in the process. Now, are you going to swing a vote with that? Not one person, but if 100,000 people do that, now you're talking, right? Now you can actually move bills, move policy, and I think that that's an easy step that everybody can take.
So what you're saying is that it pays for people to be involved, because for every person who sits it out, it dilutes the pool of people who actually stand in and make the phone call.
Well, sure, and look, if you have, we talk about how many gun owners there are in America and in California, even, right? California's got about 40 million people, roughly, call it 25+% of those people are gun owners. But if you only have 10,000 people show up, the numbers are there and they count. So, I mean, if you can't, and to your point about the petitions and stuff like that, one of the dangers of running campaigns that aren't viable to begin with is that you teach the other side what your real show of strength can be, right? And that's a danger that you really have to balance when you're dealing with strategic action. You don't want to do something that is going to lose.
That's a very good point. So let me ask you this. I mean, we obviously have a number of different gun rights organizations that exist. Obviously, everybody knows of the NRA. It's been around forever. You have the Second Amendment Foundation, which has been taking off since the 70s and engaged in a lot of litigation. You have the Gun Owners of America, which is a group that a number of people are now looking at in a different manner and in a somewhat serious light. Can you give us a little bit of more information about Firearms Policy Coalition? I mean, I've heard of you guys. I know a number of people who are involved in the organization, both within the actual structure of the organization. Obviously, our law firm has done some stuff with you folks, and it looks like we're going to be, continuing to foster a relationship with you. But for our listeners and viewers who aren't familiar with Firearms Policy Coalition, can you explain kind of like what you guys do, where you are, and where you fit in that realm of, quite honestly, a lot of different gun rights groups?
Well, there are a lot of great groups out there, and we don't believe competitive with any of them. Everybody has a different approach, and we respect that. We appreciate it, because in the free marketplace of ideas, the only way to get a great product is to sort of put everything out there and let the best rise to the top. We're not a 1,000-pound gorilla. We never intended to be that. Alan Gottlieb at Second Amendment Foundation, just a tremendous advocate, done a lot of great work. I mean, the NRA, speaks for itself. There's tons of examples that you can point to out there with people doing great, with like Mike Schwartz in San Diego. We have a specific purpose and mission, and that is all the Bill of Rights all the time. At the end of the day, we're watching free speech issues. We're watching equal protections issues. We're looking for privacy, all kinds of different things. And maybe that makes us unique, kind of taking a broader, more holistic approach. And perhaps the other thing is, our focus on policy and law, particularly as it applies to people behind enemy lines. Look, if you're in Texas, if you're in Arizona, you're in pretty decent shape. You probably don't care as much about what's happening behind the Iron Curtain in California or wherever. but I mean, at the end of the day, that's where the Second Amendment's really going to rise or fall. Right now, people don't realize that what they're really operating on, and perhaps they are exercising Second Amendment rights, but they're really operating under state statutes and statutory privileges, exemptions to criminal laws. The Second Amendment right now is pretty young, and it's not very expansive. And so we're really going to know, what the Second Amendment means in Hawaii and California and New Jersey. That's really where it's going to come down. So, for us, we're really focused on protecting gun owners behind enemy lines where they're in a hostile jurisdiction that hates their rights.
You know, I think you, again, you keep touching on all these things that I love hearing, because it's, you know, we can only do so much as individuals, but together, you know, if we're all pushing the same message, I think collectively it's stronger. And you brought up Hawaii, and I think a lot of people forget about that. They forget about how bad it really is over there.
It's interesting you say that. So I went to Hawaii after SHOT Show this past year, and it's first of all, it's a gorgeous state, but the gun laws there are interesting. I actually had the opportunity to meet an individual out there who was a gun owner, and you know, he took us around his property and showed us stuff, and we talked guns a little bit. It wasn't the main topic of discussion, but so, you know, I can own an AR-15, and then you look and you see, like, being able to get a license, a carry permit out there, you know, forget it. You see in the news recently, you're now a medical marijuana user. Well, here's the notice that says, because we know you have guns, turn them on over. And I think what a lot of people forget to some degree is that, particularly with California, that a lot of times policies California adopts finds its way out of the state, both at the federal and other states levels, and it just from there grows.
Well, I remember our friend Ebbs from House of Arms.
Yes.
They do some really awesome single-shot rifles. They're based out of Colorado, and he was telling me even 4 and 5 years ago, when Colorado had a bunch of issues, he said that a lot of it came from people that moved to Colorado from California. You know, they latch on to, this is the way it needs to be everywhere. They move out of the state, and now you've got Nevada having issues.
They're like locusts.
But yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate that, you know, and I brought this up in a video that I made a while back. And Brandon, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. My stance is that we, as Second Amendment, you know, responsible citizens, etc., we don't push that lifestyle onto anyone. We don't force people to live the way that we do. So I find it very curious that the people that are quote unquote against us, they're trying to force us to live a certain way, and I find that very, very strange. What do you think that FPC is doing to kind of combat that type of individual?
Well, I think there's a couple of things to unpack there. The first thing is, fundamentally, you know, I know everybody wants California to fall off into the ocean, but barring something pretty significant, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. You got to remember that your brothers and sisters, there's 40 million people in that state, that their civil rights are being infringed. It is a soft tyranny, maybe not too soft for too long. And I think that, if you have the attitude, screw them, I don't care. You know what? The reality is what happened to Colorado, what's happening to Nevada. California has too many people. And the migration patterns of people, especially with the economy being what it was, there was a lot of outbound folks. There's a lot of outbound folks now. This is not something that you can wall yourself off from. Civil rights either work everywhere or they don't exist anywhere. And the concept that, well, I live in a free state, so I'm safe. Sorry, brother or sister, you're you're joking.
Living on borrowed time.
You're living on borrowed time. It's statutory privileges that, look, Bloomberg comes in with 20, 30 million bucks. I'll tell you what, your Arizona gun rights, what happens when Phoenix shows up to vote?
Yeah, game over.
I'm just saying, you know.
Sure.
So I think that there's quite a bit of risk there that people want to sort of play it safe, but this is not a safe game. We're playing for the future of the republic, not for the future of Arizona or Texas, but all of the states together, collectively, as the United States and the constitutional principles of the United States. This is not about state gun rights and everything else. This is really bigger than that. And so, if you're somewhere where if you've got some time and you're not under the gun, maybe you can help other people out.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is an excellent point. Now, and we said this when Trump got into office, we kind of put out the message like, now's the
time to do stuff, not just sit back, which unfortunately a lot of people are, well, we should be winning. Well, if you're not being active, how are we going to be winning?
Somebody's got to push people. Is not a war.
Right. Absolutely. So I guess moving on to our next topic here, because it's one of the real hot button issues over the last week and a half: national reciprocity and fixed NICS being combined with it. I obviously let loose a legal brief earlier last week or this week.
It was
yesterday. So
yesterday.
I have no idea what day of the week it is apparently about fixed NICS, because that seems to be the one thing that everybody's focusing on. So I guess let's hit national reciprocity, because that one seems to be pretty self-explanatory, and most people don't seem to really have qualms with it. There's some stuff out there, but not nearly as much as the fixed NICS, which we'll dive into here in a second. So national reciprocity, let's talk about that. Firearms Policy Coalition. What is your guys, the organization's view and thought on how the bill ended up being?
Well, we've been analyzing the bill and talking about the bill for almost a year now, I guess. And I think that the way I would talk about HR 38 as it passed was it's a good bill. It's not a perfect bill. It has flaws. We've talked about those. If you want to go to passhr38.com, you can see our letters. We're transparent about our beliefs, so they're all right there. Look, I think that for the future of Second Amendment rights in America, national reciprocity is probably the pivotal issue. If you can normalize gun ownership and gun carry outside one's home, I think that from a long-term perspective, I think that you could win, you can survive, you can make advancements. If we are going to remain closeted gun owners with rights that stop at our door, I think it's going to be a really hard time convincing people in 20, 30, 40 years that, what is the scope of the Second Amendment and why is it so important? But if you've got millions of people carrying every day for self-defense and there are no, puppies and kittens in the streets, now you can make a pretty socially acceptable argument that gun ownership is perhaps even beneficial to the average person.
I'm so happy right now. I'm sitting here. The
You
people at home can't see
you
me
should have
doing
seen
this.
him, and the people listening to the podcast later won't be able to see it at all. But
I'm bobbing my head, shaking my head, yes,
just
absolutely.
up and down. Very, very ecstatic about that last response there.
I mean, people forget. Yes, we're worried about right now, but we are also setting ourselves up for 30 and 40 years into the future. I want to have a gun when I'm old.
Yeah, and I want.
I'm kind of old
assuming
already,
assuming I have children, or I know I have friends who have children. I want them to be able to have a gun when they're old.
I want everybody to be able to do what they want and have the freedom to choose whether they want to carry a gun or not.
Novel concept, huh?
Yeah, it's amazing. So let's keep on rolling. We're almost at our halfway point, so we're going to hit one more topic before we kind of jump into a different ship here. Fixed NICS. That is a big deal right now. There's a lot of confusion. We tried to boil that down the best we could with the legal brief yesterday, right? It was yesterday?
I believe it was yesterday. But there's a lot of opposing views about it too, not just confusion, but there's a lot of information being pumped by different organizations depending upon their stance on the issue as to what the bill is actually going to do.
Yeah, and I think it'd be really cool to hear kind of what FPC thinks about the issue, because people have already heard the TGC stance. What do you think?
Well, I think it's I certainly am sympathetic to the concerns that are out there. We have concerns about the bill. We expressed those in a few letters and different ways. Fixed NICS is not the bill that everybody is talking about. Unfortunately, a lot of people are just not reading the bill. And I hate to say it, but if you want to talk about something and have an informed opinion, start with the actual policy or the issue. Read the bill. It's not hard to find. If you read the bill.
Just read it, dude. I mean, it's right there.
Just read the bill. You can look to people like us for guidance, and I respect the trust that people put into our relationships with our supporters. Right? I mean, they're trusting us kind of to act as proxies to protect their civil rights, just like the NRA and GOA and everybody else. So there's a real importance to that trust and maintaining it. But at the end of the day, if you have concerns, read the bill. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anybody. Read the bill yourself. If you have questions, then seek counsel. Ask us, ask your lawyer, or somebody somebody else. But anyway, at the end of the day, Fix NICS is not the bill that's being talked about. It does have problems. We have positions on those problems. If you go to passhr38.com, our letters on Fix NICS are there too, so we're transparent about our views there. I would just encourage people to really be educated on the issues before they go one direction or the other on Fix NICS.
That's what it's all about, man. Education, 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 education. I can't say it enough.
Yeah, no, it's that's a very good point. It seems like a lot of people want to take whatever is fed to them as the gospel and not actually kind of do their own research into things. And I get it, time. There's any number of reasons, and some valid, some not,
Sure.
that people don't do that. So, wow, I guess we've already hit our halfway point. That's time's flying.
I think it's time to let's give Brandon a chance to plug what he's doing.
Absolutely.
Before we get to that, real quick, I do want to say one thing, guys. I know there are a bunch of people that are in and out watching us live right now on the live feed on Facebook. So if you're watching now, we're here with Brandon Combs of Firearms Policy Coalition. Brandon, where can people connect with you? What do you want people to know about? Where do you want to send people? What are we looking at right now?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Firearmspolicy.org is our website. That's the easiest place to get some information. I would encourage anybody, if you want to know who we are and what we're about, read our material. We are what we do, and our work product is what it is. And if you don't like it, I support that. And if you do, great. We would love to have you as part of our team. But firearmspolicy.org on the web, at Gun Policy on Twitter and on Instagram, obviously Gun Policy on Facebook. And we're just really, really honored that people would even consider what we have to say.
I think you guys have an incredible message. And I hope that the TGC audience comes over and kind of supports what you guys do as much as they can. I just said in the last episode of TGC News that aired on Monday, I said, I do not believe that we can do this with a single organization. So having organizations hitting on every possible level, we've got state level, we've got national, we've got large, we've got small, we've got a team. And
Right.
That is how we are going to win. We've got all these millionaires and billionaires fighting against us. We've got the Constitution fighting with us. That's what it's all about. So that's cool, man. That's very cool. Brandon, go ahead, Adam.
Well, I was gonna say, I guess we're gonna be moving on here in a second. I don't know if John has a smoker. By the way, I know I don't, because my HOA would not allow that. But
That's a whole nother show. The
yeah,
HOA. Hey, we want to tell you how to live in your own house.
That would be a great topic.
Bastards, all
but
of them.
I'm going to need that recipe from you for the smoked beef ribs at some point.
I'm going to share that.
So I guess, folks, if you are in a state like New Yorkistan, New Jerseyistan, California, Massachusetts, any of those northeastern states that really just don't like you or your rights, be sure to go give Firearms Policy Coalition a look. They seem to be the small group that's working behind enemy lines. For all you people that are saying other organizations aren't doing that, it certainly seems like Firearms Policy Coalition is picking up the slack. So go give them a look, firearmspolicy.org. And with that, we're going to get to our sponsors this week. This week's our sponsors are HoloSun and Freedom Munitions.
Yeah, it's time to pay the bills. This is the first ever episode of TGC News, but this is kind of going to be our break time, in the middle of the show. So I want to talk about our first one, which is HoloSun. They are absolutely crushing it in the optics game, the affordable optics game right now. And
Yes.
we actually just got a box full of them.
There's like 8 of them.
I reached out to them and I said, listen, guys, I've got a whole bunch of stuff that needs optics on it. We've got a bunch of builds. TGC is working on stuff all the time, new stuff, so can you hook us up? And they did. I actually have one of the 515 CUs and the 503 CUs, which both have like a solar panel on top to help keep the battery
cool.
charged, which is awesome. I'm actually really impressed with the quality for the price point of $200 or $300 somewhere.
They're not
in there.
that expensive.
Yeah, they're super affordable, which is awesome. They actually also, I told Adam about this before the show, and it was really cool. at the NRA annual meeting, the TGC panel that we do every year, Holosun came out big and donated 12 optics. 12. So everybody that
rifle,
got like
right?
an AR upper and or a rifle or a lower, they all got optics.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So guys, I really want you to take a look at Holosun. They've been super generous to us here at TGC, and you can do that over at holosun.com. And we've got another sponsor this week.
Yeah, so you guys may be familiar with Freedom Munitions from our Freedom Fridays that we do on Facebook and Instagram. If not, you should go make yourself acquainted. They got a real affordable line of ammunition. They got everything from their subsonic Hush to their bore buster line, and they really have something for everybody over there. I actually, at the last Great American Outdoor Show, which is a 9-day show, so if you work in the trade,
we're going to be there again this year.
Yeah, we're going to be there again this year. The law firm's going to have a booth there, but it's a long show, especially if you're in the one of the guys manning a booth. But they had a booth there, and I actually grabbed some of their 55 grain 223 projectile. So for people that don't know, apparently some people don't know this, I'm a reloader. I do load my own ammo, and I was looking for something a little more less expensive than the 77 grain pills I was loading. And I'm very happy with the results for my range and plinking ammo there. So be sure to go check them out at freedommunitions.com. And because you guys are TGC followers and listeners, we have a special discount code for you.
TGC. Snap. Discounts.
Yeah. TGC5, all one word, TGC5 gets you 5% off site-wide.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm pumped about that. So now what we're going to do, so, you guys have been watching. We've been talking to Brandon Combs of Firearms Policy Coalition.
Yes.
That's a good name, man. I like that.
That's awesome.
I like that. So what we've got Brandon here, and we're going to jump into some topics that are kind of relevant. It just so happens that this week is kind of politically heavy. We are not planning on making this just a political rant type thing. There's
it depends. HOAs. I mean, we got plenty of content for the HOA episode.
Yeah, the HOA. That's the one.
It's gonna be amazing.
Gonna be the one. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of go through some stuff that's happening right now, and just kind of have a conversation about it. And that's really what we want this to be.
Yeah. So, and Brandon, just real quick, because we didn't tell you ahead of time, but check your email. I sent you some links there for the articles we're going to talk about. So the first one here, those are you guys that are HK buffs, because you suck and they hate you. You may be familiar with hkparts.net, and if you've been following the saga over there, Adam Weber, who is not been associated with the company for some time, actually, was recently sentenced. So Mr. Weber had previously been found to be dealing in firearms without a license and also tax evasion.
Oh, sweet. Sweet. Way
So,
to go, dude.
What happened was there was 1 year, I think he made close to like $10 million through, if I recall.
Let me guess, it was 2013.
It very well could have been. He made a lot of money, and he only reported like $136,000 of the income. So he was charged, and interestingly, the feds decided not to pursue any of the firearms-related stuff about it. My understanding was because they were concerned it would confuse the jury.
Hold on, pump the brakes. I just want to give a shout-out to the judges, juries, etc., that continue to not prosecute people when there are laws out there that they're just ignoring. It's great.
It's good. And the juror in the Senator Menendez case, a senator is, it's one of the three. Never mind. We'll get to that some other time. But anyway, so Adam Weber was charged and prosecuted. But interestingly, part of that decision not to pursue the firearm stuff, from my understanding, was because they didn't want to muddle the water. And quite honestly, the tax evasion stuff was a slam dunk conviction. So he ended up, his defense attorney asked for probation, and he ended up being sentenced to, I think, 4 years.
4 years probation or 4 years in jail?
4 years in federal prison.
Federal pound
and,
something.
Yeah, and like $100,000 in fines. Oh, and he did pay back the back taxes and penalties as well.
I mean, how stupid can you be? I hate the IRS. Hate them.
Yeah, let's be clear.
I'm a business owner. I hate them.
Let's be clear. Every time I film something and I stutter or say something, John goes, taxation is theft.
I hope, we're going to make that a continuing trend here on the Gun Collective. Taxation is theft.
Maybe we should just change our name to Taxation is Theft Collective. Like a modern day Robin Hood.
Here's Adam Kraut with the taxation is theft brief.
It doesn't have the nice. It doesn't have the nice ring to it I was hoping for.
And you know what's great is Izzy's listening right now. Our editor is listening. I guarantee it. And he's gonna mess with you.
So one of the things that we're going to have in the future for this is going to be some images and stuff for the live streams, and I can guarantee you that that's going to come back to haunt me somehow.
Taxation is theft. All right, so Adam Weber, colossal moron. What happened? He's
poor decisions. We'll say that.
Yeah, poor decision making. Not shocking. All right. So, what's next?
Well, we've got American Outdoor Brands,
which is
Brandon. Are you familiar? Are you familiar with American Outdoor Brands?
I'm sure I am. If remind me, what's the?
Okay, so this was a huge deal. Yeah. So this was
so Smith and Wesson changed their name. So it was Smith and Wesson was the holding company of Smith and Wesson, and they changed
and other brands.
Yeah, and a bunch of other brands, and they changed that to kind of make it more like Vista, and they started picking up brands after they did that.
And on top of that, everybody, I remember when that happened because everybody freaked out. Smith and Wesson's changing their name. No, not the gun company.
The holding company.
The holding company. They own companies that you may know, like Gemtech, if you like silencers.
Yeah, they do own them, and a bunch of other. I've covered a bunch of the stuff that they've picked up on TGC, on TGC News. So
they're diversified, and I own stock in them, so I appreciate
it's
that.
a smart call. So what happened?
So the sales call, or the report rather, that the company, the holding company has with the stockholders happened, and some interesting things happened. Like there was a lot of not selling things at all.
That's so very descriptive.
Yeah. So they had previously forecasted like $740 million in sales, and that shrank to 650.
So they forecasted
a lot more, like $100 million more.
$100 million more than they saw, which honestly isn't all that bad considering there are companies that are doing way worse than that. I mean, still $600 and some odd million in sales. Oh no, they're doing so terrible.
Yeah.
Brandon, are you a Smith & Wesson guy?
Yeah, actually, I am. I have a lot of, at least in the historically anyway, I've had a lot of Smith & Wesson wheel guns. Big fan.
Do you like that new 2.0 M&P, or are you not a auto loader guy?
No, I love semis. I'm not going to do anything 2.0, 5.0, whatever the hell it is. I want things to shake out. Let's see how it goes. I did buy a SIG because why not? And, it hasn't shot me yet.
Well, that's always a plus.
Yeah. Hashtag Dropapalooza. So,
right.
So one of the other interesting things out of the Smith & Wesson, it's not in the article we're looking at, but I do recall reading it, was that they had said in relation to the current sustainability of the marketplace as far as all these incentives. So if you've been looking in gun shops over the last, I don't know, since January-ish, probably a little after the Trump administration took office, every single manufacturer has been offering some kind of incentive for you to purchase their gun, be it free magazines, rebates, holsters, ammunition, whatever they can give you to buy their product, they're trying to do it. And you got to think, there's only, for those that don't know, like in new guns, there's not a lot of margin in it, at least for the end guy. I don't know. The manufacturer probably has a much bigger, room in it, but you can't sustain a business model where you're giving away something every sale for an indefinite period of time. And that's pretty much what Smith & Wesson said. It was like, we can't do this, but we're going to have to do it anyway.
There's a guy that I think it's John Taffer. I think that's the guy's name. He's all about like restaurants and things of that nature. He had a show on TV where they went in and fixed restaurant, reality TV show. But he had a great point that I overheard, and it was in regards to, bringing people into a restaurant, but I think it really applies here. People get addicted to discounts. They don't get addicted to free. And I think that's very interesting. Instead of like giving a free thing, they're all about these percentages off and things. And we're seeing it all over. Some companies get it, some do not. and I know it's happening on on every level of the sales chain. You know, the manufacturer's offering it to
the distributor, who's offering it to the dealer, who may or may not be offering it to the end user, probably is. So it's interesting you mentioned the discount aspect, because there are certain manufacturers out there in the accessory realm, and other places for that matter, that they've almost trained their customers to wait for their sale that happens like once a year, twice a year. So the customer the rest of the year doesn't really consider buying anything, because they know for a fact everything's going on sale at that point in time. Brandon, you're a gun guy. Do you wait for those sales? Like, are you conditioned at this point that, yep, I'm waiting, I know it's coming?
You know what? You know they're going to come if you just hold out. I get it. If you want the gun, you're going to go home with the gun. But if you're not in a rush, if you don't need it that day, then yeah, you can wait for the deals to come up. I mean, everybody knows that Lexuses go on sale every Christmas, right? We get a month and a half of Lexus commercials every year. So yeah, there is some
the pretty little
conditioning,
bow on it.
They are cute bows.
Yeah, I wish somebody would buy me a Lexus.
No one's going to buy you a Lexus.
I'm not going to buy myself a Lexus.
So, I mean, the sales this year have been, I don't know, they've been big.
Subpar.
Well, no,
if you're talking
expensive.
about numbers, subpar. I guess it depends. If the actual sales are probably subpar, the numbers of sales is probably the most we've seen in like 8 years.
I mean, it's kind of shocking. We saw.
Point, yeah.
Yeah, we saw ARs go down to under $500 on a regular basis.
We've reached a point where the AR-15 is now cheaper than the AK-47, which was always thought to belong in the trash can.
I still want to build a shovel AK.
Somebody did. Multiple people have.
Who doesn't? I mean, isn't that the coolest thing ever? I really think that, you not to get political, but when you're talking about all of these ghost gun laws and all this crap, it's like, you know what? Look, guys, we can build weapons from shovels, and we will. So, I mean, ask whatever you want. But I'm going to take a shovel and build it into an AK. So there you go, Gavin.
Shots fired. I love it.
That would be the most amazing political speech ever. Like, we built this rifle from a shovel. Ban shovels now.
Oh man, yeah. Can you imagine?
How are PennDOT workers going to do their work on the side of the road if they can't lean on the shovels that were banned? That's a Pennsylvania joke.
We worked a bill last year that there were 2 ghost gun bills in California, which is all BS, fake, made up stuff. But nonetheless, one of the bills actually would have banned blocks of aluminum, the stuff that you can go down to Home Depot and buy it. So our lobbyist, Craig DeLue, is a great guy and a passionate civil rights advocate. He goes in to the committee hearing on video, and he drops a block of aluminum on the table and says, "Here's your ghost gun." Right. And so it's just so stupid. These people are so asinine. They don't even read their own bills. They don't know what the words mean. They're just, words strung together, and they can't, anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Block of aluminum is a real difficult term to understand what it means.
Is that a 0% lower?
That could be any number of things.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
All right, let's keep on steamrolling.
So the next article we got, and this one, shout out to America, dailymail.uk, .com, I guess, but from the UK, a real shotgun wedding. Fans of the Second Amendment proudly brandish weapons during marriage ceremonies.
And marriage is all in caps, too.
Yes.
Like, it's happening during a wedding. What do we do?
Right. So I guess you have, other countries where, people are shooting off guns in celebration with absolutely no accountability for where that round's ending up because we're having a good time. We're getting married, right? But some of these pictures are they're just great. I'll let John. So John is very good at visually describing what we're looking at here, and I suspect most of you are really going to like this stuff. So
essentially, what we've got here is a collection of photos from people's weddings, the bridal party, etc. And I think what the reality here is, Daily Mail is desperate for making fun of Americans. They love trying to poke at our gun laws and things like that.
We won the war.
As if they're somehow morally superior for having people getting their heads chopped off in the streets.
We won the war.
Yeah.
Don't forget it.
All right. So the first one we've got is the ladies' side of a bridal party here, and I love it. the bride is in the middle. She's got a camo shotgun. There's at least 4 or 5 ARs. One girl has a pistol. None of them seem to actually want to be holding the gun, which is amazing. They're just like holding them like, all right, they said I had to, but whatever. All right, so then that's amazing. Then we've got another. This is the classic
what you would
shotgun
expect.
wedding.
Exactly what you would expect.
So when you think of shotgun wedding, what do you think of? You think of some dude in
Camouflage.
So we've got a bride and a groom here. The groom is wearing a sweat-stained America flag patch, baseball cap, the button-down camo shirt, jeans, and boots.
The button down. Well, we got to be
He
specific
is
about the
America
camo. We have to be
personified.
specific about the camo because you
Is
have
it mossy oak,
You have.
or-
I believe it is. I don't think it's real tree. But when you picture somebody getting married in camouflage, there's a very specific kind of camouflage that comes to mind.
Yeah, it's his best. It's his Sunday camo. So she's all in white. She looks great.
Her bridesmaids are in safety orange.
Blaze orange.
Blaze
I love
orange.
it. And both of them have ARs. I think she's got a Sega. Is that an AK?
It looks like it might be a Sega 12. Yeah.
I don't know. That's the best part. She's like, NFG, I'm all about this. All right, then we've got, the kind of classic Southern gentleman, all in white. She's all in white.
Well,
Both
no,
have
he's got
shotguns.
jeans on. He has jeans on. And there's a
super
pickup
serial.
truck.
Super serial face. Of course, the Daily Mail picking the gems here.
Profile picture updated 3 hours ago.
This is the so we're moving on to the next one. I don't understand how this is a wedding picture. It's a bride, and she's on the toilet. We're looking at a top-down thing. It's not super racy. You
There's
can
legs.
see she's in the bathroom, but on the floor in the bathroom, which is a disgusting place for your guns to be.
Disgusting place for
there's
anything to
a
be.
SOCOM 16 M1A and what appear to be 2 SIG, maybe 5.51s.
Yeah, or something. Yeah.
I can't tell. I don't know SIG rifles
They're
that well.
5.5 somethings.
And it's her.
And they're
her
on the
legs.
bathroom floor.
This can't be America. That can't be America.
Why can't that be? Oh, you don't believe that could be
No,
America?
I think that's more like Eastern European stuff. It's okay. We get
not
demanding.
not
Nothing crap.
Not
It's okay.
Not the M1A. That's America all the way.
Yeah, that's a
People
good
still
point.
think that rifle's relevant.
Then this is a good one too. This will really freak out the European crowd. So we've got a threeper here on the right, full decked out in his groom outfit. He's got an actual tux on, but he's got that super duper camo. What appears to be maybe like a Blue Force gear sling and aim point on his SBR. Then we've got mom down there with it. Is that an M&P or a Glock? I can't tell.
I don't know, but hold on. That also could be a AR pistol. We don't know.
We can't see. He's shouldering it. Oh my God, ATF, watch out. She's actually got an America dress on.
No, that's a flag. I
Is
think
it
wrapped
draped
around her.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
it
think
was-
it's a flag draped around
So
her.
she's got a flag wrapped around her and has her ginger child in her arm with
Stealing
the pistol.
souls.
Finger on the trigger. Again, NFG. That's actually a really fun picture. I think that's cool. I love it when people show off who they are. And again, there's somebody with. Is that?
So this is a picture
This
from
is supposed to be wedding stuff.
Yeah, well, no, this is a there's a place in Vegas where you can get, well, there's tons of places in Vegas you can get married, and you're probably gonna make a bad decision, but so you can get married in Vegas, and there's a gun themed wedding, and the caption on this one's hysterical. This bride looks menacing as she holds an assault rifle at her gun-themed wedding in Vegas.
The best part is she actually does have an assault rifle. She's got what appears to be a 249 saw. And
she does look menacing. There's no question.
She looks like she's really going to give it to that paper target.
Oh, yeah, there is a paper target
there's
there.
a paper target there.
Oh, they're in a range. That's a range. It looks like a range.
So shotgun weddings, everybody, that's an American tradition. If you're not doing that at your wedding, you're failing miserably, and we need you to just take these and send them straight to dailymail.co.uk. They love your images, and they want to really share them out there.
We'll also take them at theguncollective@gmail.com.
Oh, goodness.
All right, and
What have you done?
the last article that we're going to be looking at today, Brandon, this one will be an interesting one to get your input on, would be CMP emails the list of requirements for you to get one of those fancy schmancy 1911s that's beat to hell, but you got to have it anyway.
So wait, let's rewind a second. Brandon, how familiar are you with the CMP guns?
Uh, Occasionally, I'll dive into stuff when there's a bill or something like that. I know there's a bill that just recently passed on this, so.
Yeah, we've been looking at these off and on for a while. I know we talked about them when Adam and I had done This Week in Guns, that podcast a while back.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about them off and on. There's M1 carbines and things of that nature, and now 1911s, and they were just kind of sitting in the Philippines, I think it was. It was either South Korea or the Philippines. They were just sitting in crates because, why allow Americans to have their own guns back, right? I don't understand that, but so explain what's going on now, Adam.
All right. So the email is actually pretty lengthy here. It says, to all CMP constituents, the board has discussed at length how sales of 1911s will be handled if we're ever to receive them from the United States Army. Some preliminary decisions have been clarified. So, all right, grade pricing, nobody really cares about currently. Laws, strictly obeyed. Potential purchasers, they'll have to provide CMP a new set of documents exhibiting proof of U.S. citizenship, proof of membership in a CMP-affiliated club, proof of participation in marksmanship activity, a new Form 2A with notary, which is something you got to get notarized. I don't know if the form's a CMP-specific form. I presume it is. Copy of the FFL it's going to. Interestingly, and this is the part I found very interesting, a NICS background check will be performed by CMP on the customer to assure the customer is eligible to purchase prior to shipment to the FFL. So for those of you familiar with federal law, if you've been watching the legal brief, you'll know that you can't just willy-nilly run NICS checks on people if you're not transferring a gun to them. So I'd be curious to know how CMP plans on doing this in compliance with the law and not getting slapped by FBI because they become
wait. There's not only are they're bringing the guns in, and
possibly if they ever get them from the Army.
So they still don't have them?
It says if they get them from the United States Army.
This is ridiculous. You know that, right? Like, this is so stupid. Like, not only are we going to bring all these awesome guns in. Go ahead.
I can't remember the bill number, but I think that there was a change in the defense authorization spending that went something like it was that you could sell a maximum of 10,000 in a year, and now it's a minimum of 8,000 or something along those lines.
Something like that. I haven't been following it that much because I don't want a 1911. I don't need a 19. I had a 1911. I sold it.
There are a lot of guys that love these things for their collector value. They're pretty cool. Listen. What are you looking at me like I have three heads for? That's true.
Yeah, you're right.
We have personal friends that want these things. I would prefer an M1, but I'm not big on 1911s. But the point is, a lot of people want these, and now they've got to kind of jump through hoops.
Well, of course.
What if here's something to consider. What if you're in an area where there isn't a lot of clubs, and they're not CMP affiliated? Then what? You have to go join a club?
Sucks for you. Or you buy it secondhand on the market from some schmuck who is.
Yeah, but are you allowed to buy more than one? So somebody could, in theory, maybe go buy.
It says
like
1 per calendar year.
1 per calendar year. You will have your ration of 1911s.
Or, well, I mean, yeah, I suppose that is. So interestingly, the next requirement here is that they're going to be required to complete a 4473 in person at the FFL, successfully passing a NICS checks performed by the FFL holder before the pistol can be transferred. This is a second NICS check performed on the customer. Again,
2 of them.
CMP. Who is your attorney?
We don't
Get a
care.
new lawyer. This is ridiculous.
I know a guy.
Orders will only be accepted via mail. Yeah, me too. But after this, I don't know. It seems like it could be quite the mess.
Do we have any idea what the pricing is going to be? Have they said that?
Yeah, it says that they haven't determined that. And it will take an estimated 150 days after the receipt. So almost 6 months after they get the firearms, they'll be able to tell you the grading and how much you can expect to pay for one of these things.
So we don't know if they're getting them. You're going to have to... They are breaking the law by performing 2 NICS checks.
Well, they're performing one, which they can't do.
They're performing one, which they're not supposed to do. We don't know if they're any good yet. And generally, they don't care. The CMP, which is really, really frustrating. That's kind of hitting me just now as I'm thinking about this. The Civilian Marksmanship Program. We don't believe in freedom, so you're going to have to jump through hoops to get a gun that used to belong to some soldier, potentially. I don't understand why this is such a big deal.
I don't know if it's that they don't believe in freedom as much as that they want to make sure that there's enough to go around versus some dude who's like, hey, I've got, $100,000. I'm just going to buy a whole bunch of these things and then sell them
But that's
on the
free
secondary.
market. I don't understand.
Well, then he'd be dealing in firearms without a license, and ATF would probably
Yeah,
want
it's
to
not
know
my
about that.
problem.
Well, you're right. That's his problem. Would be his problem. Anyway, so I found that one interesting, particularly the fact that
that
they
really
are going.
rubs me the wrong way, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
That
sorry that
irritates
it
me.
rubs you the wrong way.
That's
Maybe,
weird.
maybe you should email them and express your displeasure. And while you're at it, tell them that, hey, that NICS check you want to run.
Yeah, we're gonna give him a little bit of crap. I think, unfortunately, though, that has kind of brought us to
The end.
the disappointing time in the night where we've got to bring it down, and we've got to let you down easy. It's time to go.
Yeah. So, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you're a busy guy. Again, for those that were listening, Brandon Combs from Firearms Policy Coalition joined us. You can learn more about Firearms Policy Coalition at firearmspolicy.org. So, Brandon, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Dude, is there anything else you want to say to our audience before you go? Like, again, you want to push them. There are still a bunch of people watching live, and of course, the people listening on the podcast, in their car or whatever, will still want to know what can they do to help you guys and get involved.
First things first, most important thing I think out there right now, you got to get national reciprocity passed, period. I don't care what you have to do, who you got to call, whatever you need to do to help push that in the Senate and get it passed, you got to do it. I mean, we're talking about generational problems here, not short-term solutions. So pass HR38.com if you would. If you disagree with our position, we'd love to hear from you. Always open to learning from other viewpoints. So there's that. And at the end of the day, don't listen to...
Oh, wait. I think we may have lost him there.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's frozen, unfortunately. So check out Pass HR 38.
Yes.
We certainly would love to send people over there. Also, guys, we want your feedback. We know that those of you out there that are TGC fans that are out there watching right now maybe have watched the whole thing. We seriously appreciate your feedback, so please give that to us in the comments. This is going to be posted as an archive on YouTube, I believe.
Yes,
and
that's the plan.
That is the plan.
That is the plan. We will see if it happens or not.
We'll see. But again, guys, we really appreciate you. Be sure to check out our sponsors, HoloSun and Freedom Munitions. We talked about them in the middle of the show.
HoloSun.com and FreedomMunitions.com.
And be sure to check us out, the Adam Kraut on Instagram.
Yes.
And I am the Gun Collective on Instagram.
You can check out adamkraut.com, theguncollective.com, and if you're on Facebook, which you obviously are because you're probably watching this, or at least the live people are, you're probably already watching this on the Gun Collective page. So make sure you share with your friends. Tell your friends to come check out our podcast. We will be diving into a variety of different topics. They're not all going to be political. We're looking to have some fun with this show. If you guys have a guest that you want to see on the show or a topic you want to see us cover, let us know. You can let us know in the comments, either here on Facebook or on YouTube, or when this eventually makes it to a podcast, or shoot us an email, theguncollective@gmail.com.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys out there watching, joining us, and we will see you very, very soon.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys.